Shrayansh this side, welcome back to the channel. So in JUnit today we are going to see parameterized test. So we have already covered repeated test, which purpose is to use to run the same test multiple times, but the thing is each time the test is rerun with the same input. Okay, so we are running the test multiple times with the same input. Okay, so if you have any doubt with this, kindly check it out. And today we are going to cover parameterized test, which says that it is used to run the same test multiple times but with different inputs. Okay, so difference is that repeated test is used to run multiple times with same input. In the parameterized test, we are going to run the same test multiple times but with different inputs. And that's what make it more useful. So if you are currently working, you might see or you encounter this a lot. Okay, so I have divided into multiple sections that we have to feed the input, right? We have to feed the test data to our test case. Okay, so our test case can accept single parameter, our test case can accept multiple parameter, our test case can accept object, or there could be more complex scenarios. Okay, so how to handle all of this? So I have tried to cover everything. So let's go one by one. So first thing is single parameter parameterized test. It provides a single parameter to the test, running it multiple times with different values. Okay, so these are the two ways through which we can feed the test data, okay, to our test case. But only thing is, with this two we can only feed single parameter. That's what I want to say. This in this part it is for single parameter. It will get more clarified with this example. So see @ValueSource. So I have created one simple test scenario, okay, test class in this. So here this is my test method. It is test palindrome. It accepts one parameter, string word, only one parameter. Okay, and I am calling my method which I wanted to test. Okay, let's say I have this my string util, some other class in which this method is present, and I am going to test that class itself, my string util test. Okay, so I want to test the palindrome, and I want to test it with different inputs. Okay, so now I want to provide different use cases, different input. Okay, so that's why I use @parameterized test. Why? Because I want to run the same test multiple times, okay, but with different values. Okay, so that's why I use @parameterized test. Okay, now the second is we have to feed the test data. Okay, so I am first using @ValueSource. @ValueSource is used to feed the data for a single parameter. So @ValueSource strings equals to, now you can provide multiple values, multiple, you can say that strings. So we are using strings, right? So first let's say civic, second is level, third is madam. So test will run 3 times with different parameters. So first civic will get passed to this word, then second time level will get passed, the third time madam will get passed. Okay, so here if you run it, you will see the output that this test is run 3 times, 1 2 3. So for in the first time the civic got passed, second time the level got passed, and the third time the madam got passed. So now it is clear what is parameterized test means. Used to run a same test multiple times but with different test data. Okay, and value source is like for single parameter. Okay, and we have different types it support. So it support strings when we have to pass the, when our test method accept string. Then it has ints for integer, shorts for short, bytes for byte. Similarly you have longs. Okay, so here it would be you can use like longs, floats, doubles, and classes. So these all types it support. Okay, it do not support object. So @ValueSource is clear. What it is used for? It is used to feed a single parameter. Okay, but we can define like this so that it can run multiple times, and each time different value would be passed to the test method. Now there is something called implicit conversion. JUnit 5 automatically convert between compatible types. So now here if you see that my test method is accepting an integer, but I am using @parameterized test. Why? Because I want to run this test multiple times but with different inputs. So the way I am feeding the input is through @ValueSource, which is used to feed only one parameter. Okay, yes, my test method has only one parameter. Now here if you see, I am putting strings. So strings means I have to provide strings here. Okay, so I am providing 1, 2, 3 but in a string form. But here if you see, when you will run it, it will work properly, no issues. Why? Because JUnit 5 automatically does the conversion for us. Okay, so string is converted to int implicitly. But if it cannot, let's say here in this case I passed 1, 2 and hello. So internally JUnit 5 won't be able to convert hello to this integer. So it will throw parameter resolution exception. So if you try to run this, you will get parameter resolution exception. Okay, fail to convert a string hello to type int. Okay, so I would say that yes, JUnit 5 able to do implicit conversion, but do not rely on it. So whenever you have to do conversion, you can go for explicit conversion. You take the responsibility. Okay, so now I am going to tell you how we can do the explicit conversion. So that everything is same. So the same test method. Okay, I have annotated with @parameterized test. Like yes, I want to run this test multiple times. And how I am going to provide the data? Currently I am using @ValueSource, means my test method should accept only one parameter. Yes, it has only one parameter. Okay, and I am using strings. Okay, means in the @ValueSource, whatever the data I am going to feed would be string. So my first run, the test data is hello. In the second run, my test data would be world. Okay, now I want to take control that, okay, before my logic within a test method runs, okay, I need to do some conversion. So here I am doing a conversion that I convert this from smaller case to uppercase. So how I can do that? So use this annotation @convert with, and here you can define the class. So I have created a new class, string uppercase converter, whatever the name you want to give. Okay, but we can implement with argument converter. Okay, so when you implement it, you have to provide an override implementation for this method. Okay, so now here if you see that this argument converter which we are using with @convert with, it is very specifically for single parameter. Okay, so I am doing explicit conversion, right? So this explicit conversion is very specific for single parameter. Now here also if you see the method convert, here it has object which is nothing but a source. Source is like this. This is your source. And here you have a parameter context, and from the previous video from the extension, you might know that the parameter context has all the information about a parameter. So here our parameter is this word. It has all the information about it, like which method within this it is defined, what is the type of this parameter, okay, and what is the position in the parameter list. If there are more than one, what is its position? So everything information is available within this parameter context object. Okay, so I am just doing that. Okay, if the source is an instance of string, so this is my custom logic. You can change it like how you want to handle the conversion, explicit conversion. So I'm just checking, okay, if this is a string and here parameter context dot parameter dot get type, this is also a string, then whatever the source data I am getting, convert it to an uppercase. Okay. So what I am doing is, so first whatever the source test data which is coming, okay, it will first goes to this converter. It will convert it to uppercase and then it will go inside. And then I'm checking. Okay, whatever the testing you have to do. So here the sequence is that first @ValueSource provide raw string value like hello, then second time world. Okay, then @convert with calls our converter before the test parameter is injected. Okay, then the second is your this get invoked. Okay, then it will do the conversion whatever we wanted. Then the third is it will inject the value within this parameter, and then fourth this will get executed. But remember that @convert with which we are using with argument converter. Okay, so we are implementing the interface argument converter. It is used to convert only single parameter. If you have more parameter, right, the string, comma, word, comma, let's say integer, more parameters, then we can't do explicit conversion like that. Then there is a different way of doing that. I will tell you how. Okay, but currently we are doing single parameterized test, so it is related with that context. Okay. Now one more thing, using @ValueSource, we cannot provide null values. So there is a specialized annotation for it. So we have one annotation @NullSource, it will feed null value. We have @EmptySource, it will feed empty value, and we have @null and empty source which combine both. So here see this. So I have a test method and I have annotated with @parameterized test because I want to run it multiple times but with different data. Now the first I have put @null and empty source, means it will first call this method, test method, and what it will pass, one is null, it will feed it with null, second time it will feed it with empty string, and then I have also annotated with @ValueSource and type is string, so it will pass, I have to define multiple string values, and then it will run one time is civic, and fourth time is level, and fifth time is madam. So this test case will run 5 times with these all values. So here it will see, it will run 5 times. So this palindrome method is passed for all this test data, but for null it got failed, which is expected. Okay. So if you want to test with null or empty value, you can use @null, because here you can't provide null like this. It would be considered as a string. Then another annotation is EnumSource. This is also for single parameter. So the same way, I have a test method which is accepting one parameter only, day. Let's say this is an enum. Day is an enum. So I have annotated with @parameterized test. Why? Because I want to run this test multiple times but with different data. Now how I am providing the data? I am using @EnumSource. Okay. Now with @EnumSource, the value I provided is my this enum class. So I have created this enum class. I have used day.class. Okay. Now this test will run this 7 times, one with Sunday, Monday, then Tuesday, like this. So 7 times it run with different enum values. Okay. And how you want to assert it, that is our custom logic. Okay. But the thing is, this test case will run this many times. Okay. Now sometime it is requirement that you want to run the test case only for a specific enum value. Okay. Not for all. How we can do that? That is also possible. The same @EnumSource value is like what enum class, you have to take the data. Then we can provide the names. Okay, then this name should exactly match with your enum. Okay, so I have provided like Monday, Tuesday, these two. By default is included. So here, if you don't write this mode also, by default it's included. So it will run only 2 times, Monday and Tuesday. Okay, but I have specifically mentioned so that we know that internally this mode is also get added, and mode is by default is include. Means these names, whatever you have added, only those enum will run. But if you change it to exclude, then only these two will get excluded from this enum, and rest it will run. So here if you see that Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday all run, Monday, Tuesday got excluded. Okay, so this is how we can handle single parameter. If your test method has single parameter, we can feed the data using these two. But now very important is, what if your test method has multiple parameter? Okay, then there are two ways, is @CsvSource, @CsvFileSource. Okay, I hope with this distinction it would be very clear and very easy to remember that okay, multiple, these two sources I need to use. If it is a single, these two I need to use. Okay, so now we have a multiple. So let's see the first @CsvSource. Now let's see this example. I have a test method. Now notice this, I have multiple parameters, int a, int b, and let's say expected. Okay, so this is just an example that whatever the logic you might have, whatever the use case, okay, different parameters I need to accept, you can have that. Okay, so now I can give you a real world example. Let's say a user. You have to create a user object. Okay, so you need its country. Okay, you need is like, okay, what is the currency? Okay, what is status? You need these three things to create a user object, let's say. Okay, now the same test, let's say create user, you have to test but with different scenario. Okay, so in that case we can make use of this parameterized test. Okay, and since it needs multiple parameters, we need to test our create user logic with multiple parameters. Okay, what if user country is India, currency is INR, and status is active? What if the country is Russia, currency is something, ruble, and status is something else? So with the same different values, you want to test the create user. This is the real world example I am telling you. This is how actually it's used. Okay, in that case you need it. So first way is @CsvSource. Okay, now here in this case you can provide like value equals to, now consider this as an array of array. Okay, so this is like first, this is like second run. So in the first run you have like comma separated, delimiter by default. So again, this is by default, even if you don't write it, by default delimiter is comma. Okay, so here value is within your double quotes and comma separated. So the one will be bind to this one, the 2 will bind to this b, and 3 is get bind to this third parameter expected. Okay, similarly in the second run, the same, 5 would get bind to a, this 5 will get bind to b, and the 10 will get bind to this third parameter expected. Okay, now here we can change the delimiter also. And also this is another example, since it's a very CSV source, it is nothing but like we are providing the CSV format but inline. Okay, so we can also add header also. So now here if you see this test, same thing, I have 3 parameters, int a, int b, and expected. So 3 values I am expecting. I have annotated with @parameterized test. So means multiple times it will run. And the source I am using it @CsvSource for feeding the test data, because it's a multiple parameter and I am using inline CSV. Okay. Let's say delimiter. So generally you know that CsvSource is like multiple comma separated. Okay. And each one is within a double quotes. Okay. And whatever you have, it's comma separated now internally also. So this is the format. So now I have changed the delimiter to this pipe. Okay. So now within this double quotes, okay, we have currently separated the parameters. Okay. So generally in this, each value which is separated through a delimiter is feeded to a one parameter, right? So now instead of comma, I am using pipe. Okay, that's what I am doing. So delimiter I have changed from comma to pipe. So here if you see, this is first run, this is second run, third run. Each run is within a double quote. Okay, and within a double quotes, now I change the delimiter to pipe. So 1, then you have a pipe delimiter, then 2, pipe 3. So 1 would be assigned to this parameter, 2 would be assigned to this parameter, and 3 would get assigned to this parameter. Similarly, in the second run, it would be like this. Okay. And also one more thing you notice that since it's a CSV, you can also add a header for the better understanding. Okay, this is value 1, this is value 2, this is expected value. Okay, each separated through a delimiter. But the thing is, we have to skip this. Okay, because we don't have to do an internal conversion for this one. So that's why we use this. Use header in display name is true. By default, it is false. So if you don't write it and use the same thing, you added the header value. So it will try to assign this to this parameter. Okay, and then you will get an exception because you won't be able to convert it. Okay, so that's why we use header in display name equals to true. What we are telling that, hey, consider the first line as the header. Okay, so don't try to do a conversion of it and start from the next line. Okay, so I told you by default comma is used as delimiter. Okay, and if you want to change it, you can change like this. Now the question might comes to your hey, what if our value need comma itself? Okay, one way is that you change the delimiter so that your value, you can put some comma inside your value. But what if you want to use comma as a delimiter itself, and what if your value also has comma? Then how you would handle it? For example, what I am trying to say, the same thing, the same test which is accepting word, string and two parameter, one is string and another is integer. So I am using @CsvSource value equals to, so this is first run, this is second run, this is third run. And in the first run we have a double quote and delimiter is by default is comma. So this will get assigned to first parameter word and this is to a length. Similarly, this will properly get assigned. Now here if you see string word, so here I have Delhi comma India. So we need to tell that, hey, this is one string. Don't put Delhi into this word and India to try to assign it to length. No, Delhi comma India is one word. So how we can use this? Use single quote. So when we put our string within a single quote, it would treat it as one string. Okay. So now this Delhi comma India would assign to this word. Okay. And this 11 would assign to this length. Okay. So I have just written different ways. So let's say if you have defined this CsvSource value equals to hello comma world. So value equals to, if you don't have multiple like delimiter or yes, then you don't need to write value equals to. Okay, you can skip it. But if you have multiple fields like delimiter, use header and display name, then you have to write value also. Okay, so here I don't have multiple fields, so that's why I skip value, but you can write value also, value equals to, that will also fine. Okay, so here I have it will run two times, not two times. So multiple parameter, right? So only single. So this will get assigned to parameter 1, argument 1, and this will get assigned to second argument. Okay. Similarly, if I have comma within a string, okay, so I have used like this. So it is within my double quotes. So this is like one run. Now in this one run, here if you see this hello, comma, so this would be considered my first argument. Then single quote start, and then here single quote end. So this would be treated as another argument. Okay. So here if you see, this is just what I have already explained, use of a single quote. Okay. So here even if you see that the comma is there, it don't consider this as a delimiter now. Okay. It takes the full. Now here if you see, if you use like this, hello comma, and here if you see single quote start, single quote end. Okay. So here single quote start, single quote end. So here first argument is hello, the second is your empty. If you have something like hello comma and nothing, so double quotes, you have hello, which would be your first argument, comma, nothing, and you just close double quotes, closed it. So the first is hello, the second is considered as null. The another is that value equals to here if you see, this is totally one run, and within this run, hello comma, so this would be your one argument, hello, then world comma, so this would be a second argument. Now here if you see, you got NA. So is this an argument? Now here if you see, there is one more field, null values. What I have put null values is NA. So whenever you consider this, so this is custom, you can provide anything. So I have provided like, hey, n/a. You can also put like, hey, small null or NA, simple, whatever you want. But the thing is, whatever the string you would provide here, if that string is there in the value, that it will pass as null. Okay. And also one more thing is that here if you see, by default it ignores the trailing, leading and trailing white space. Okay. So now let's say this is the value. So here if you see, there is a space in front of hello, and also there is a space in front of world. Okay. So this is run 1, and within this run 1, so this get passed as the first parameter, this is passed as the second parameter. But I have specifically told that ignore leading and trailing white space is equals to false. By default it is true. So now here if you see that the first argument is hello, notice that space in front, it is now not ignored. In the second argument, here again space is present, it didn't trimmed it. Okay. But if you don't use this, if it is true and you have a space front and trailing, it will ignore it. Okay. So these are just different ways through which you can provide the values inside a CSV source. Then there is something called CsvFileSource. Okay. Sometimes you have a large input data set. Okay. And you don't want to provide inline. So if you have, let's say 4 or 5 or let's say 10, it's okay. You can use inline CSV format. But let's say you have to test with 1000. Is it, you can say, a better approach to have like 1000 values here, like comma separated, like 1000 here within a Java file? No, right? It doesn't like easy to manage and readable. So when we have a large input data, then we can use @CSV file. It will load the test from an external CSV file instead of writing it inline. So here @CsvFileSource resources equals to, okay, you just provide the file name. Okay. And this file name should be inside a path /source/test/resources folder. Okay. So I have created this source within a test and the resources folder, whatever the file name you have to give, you can provide it here. Okay. Now here, like any CSV, normal CSV, you can write the or add the values. Okay. So here I have used as a first as a header, and from second I have the data. Okay. So here I have 3 parameters within my test data. So it will automatically get bind like the same CSV source. This one would get assigned to A, 2 would assign to B, and 3 would assign to expected. Okay. So it runs 2 times. Okay. And here one more thing is that I have used num lines to skip 1. Okay. By default it is 0. If you don't write it, it will try to read from the first line itself. So I have tell num lines to skip 1. So it skip the first line and read from the file, it read from the second. Okay. You can use another way, like how we used to do in the CSV source. You can use header and display name equals to true. What we are saying to the JUnit that consider the first line as header. Okay. And it is an header. You don't have to parse it. From the next line, you can start parsing it. So that also works fine. But don't use both. So now let's say in this example, I have used both input data, num line to skip 1, use header and display true. I have used both. So what it will do, first we are telling that skip the first line. So it will skip the first line. Now second, I am saying that, hey, the first line you need to consider as a display. So means it will start reading. We have already skipped the first line. So it will start reading from the second itself. And then also we are saying consider the first as a header. So it will also skip this and start reading it from here. So means you are unintentionally skipping the 2 lines. And if you try to run this, you will see that it is running only this one. It skipped this. Why? The first one got skipped because you used num lines to skip. So it will start reading from the second line itself. And then you are saying that first line is considered as a header. So it will also consider it as a header. So it will don't try to parse it. And then it will start from here. Okay. So this is just for our info that use either one to skip the one line. Okay. The third one is object, which I will cover in the part 2. Otherwise the video length will become like more. So I hope this multiple parameter and single parameter is very much clear, and believe me, this is very frequently used if you are currently working in an organization. Okay. See you in the second part where we'll see what happened when our test method has an object, how to pass it. Okay. Okay guys, bye.